Trips is the name of my database, and my table tips is right here. Now you can click on the dbo.tips. You will see the columns that I was creating from the aggregates in here, trip amounts and average distance. Those were, let me go back to that just so you can see a little bit more finer on this. If I go to the taxi data pipeline, it took 3 to 4 seconds to land that data, by the way, to aggregate the data from those two files, join it, aggregate it, and then write it into my SQL pool. Back in the data flow designer, I just want to kind of make sure that I level set this with you all. The aggregates that we're writing, remember this is going to be, I didn't show you the filter. I'm filtering out essentially zeros and nulls. I did the join, I did the aggregate, I sorted the data, and then I did some selecting to kind of change, make sure that all of the column names looked right. Column names for Parquet can't have special characters and spaces and things like that, so I did some things there. All of this is available to you without writing code, okay? But here's what those average distances look like for this case. For the this was a little bit different. This is the average distance of the tip amount. I would probably want this to be a little bit nicer, by the way. When I did my aggregate, one thing you might want to do, if you were to do this at home, is to take your aggregate instead of saying average. I think you might see that I did this on the earlier aggregate I was showing you, is to instead round that maybe to two places. You get a nicer looking value on that. But anyway, this is going to write that data. Now, what's going to happen is that it's going to, if you don't already have a table defined in your SQL pool, that's fine. I almost said ADF. Pipelines and the data flow piece of Synapse will create the table with these data types. The data types will be converted from Spark, because these are running in Spark, into the SQL data type. So you see we got floats here. We got tip amount of floats, and we got average distance of float. So now you can take that table and you can say, give me a new SQL script, select top 100 rows, just as if I were in SSMS. And we run this, and there we go. So you see the same data that we saw in the data preview over there. Of course, again, I would beautify this with a round to two places to get that. Okay, so let's put a pause right there. I think I probably overloaded you all in terms of learning how to get started or do these different things within Synapse Analytics workspaces. As you can see, I get very excited by this kind of stuff. I get a little bit too deep on it sometimes, but bottom line to this kind of the net is that if you're coming from Data Factory, SSIS, this should be a very, very smooth, easy thing for you to pick up and to be able to start working with this. In review, the areas you're going to want to focus on as you're doing, if you're a data engineer, you're working with pipelines, you're going to work with data flows. These are all your visually oriented low-code environments for your integrating, your data integration, your data transformation, all those sorts of areas. The data sets, the integrated data sets, are going to be where you define the shape of your data under integration data sets. That's under data. And then also use the Explorer within there so that you can look at the data that you're bringing in from external sources. And then finally, pipelines is going to be the primary place you're going to go to orchestrate all the different things, the beautiful things you've built within Develop and within Copy. And then last but not least is the monitor. So as you orchestrate these from triggers, these will then land in the monitoring view over here, and you will see that same view that I showed you earlier from the copy in the pipeline. And actually, let me finish on that. I do want to show you that the data flow as it runs from the pipeline. So my pipeline was over here as copy pipeline 2. No, that was the first one. I already showed you that one. Taxi data. I can show you the monitoring view from here because I ran it from a debug, okay? And so what happens is you can click on the eyeglasses and you get some very deep analysis. Essentially, you're going to get an execution plan of how that ran in Synapse Spark. All right. So you'll be able to see the total time that each stage of your transformation took. You'll be able to see how much time it took to serialize that data, the number of partitions that were used, and you can see the changes over throughout each different step of your data flow. There you go. So with that, I'm going to stop right there. So I really, really appreciate everybody taking the time to learn about pipelines and data flow.